Hi there, I'm Suzanne Scott. I am from Trauma-Informed Parenting, and I'm just going to give you a bit of an introduction into what we offer. I'm making a new one of these because we've added a few new things and updating it a wee bit. So just to give you a kind of brief outline of everything that we do at Trauma-Informed Parenting, I'll give you a bit of info about why we set it up and what we do. So first and foremost, I'm a parent. I have a daughter who is profoundly deaf. She got a cochlear implant at the age of 2. She never shuts up. She drives me nuts, which is a wonderful complaint to have. Her technology is out of this world, and her hearing is the least of her problems now. My daughters are now 27 and 25. And so for a long time, we really struggled because it became obvious as my daughter started developing her language that there was more going on. It wasn't just her hearing loss that she had to contend with. She was in meltdown every day, and it was many, many years before we started to consider that she could be autistic. All the professionals that worked with her suggested this to us, but it took us quite a long time to realise this. And so finally, when we tried to get a diagnosis, we didn't find that easy, and we were told that she was not autistic. And it wasn't until years later when we had her genes tested to see if her sister carried the same genes as her, and whether this was something she would need to consider when she went on to have children. They discovered that she had an extremely rare brain disorder called Shine syndrome. It's a deletion in the brain, like many people are learning about these wonderful things now that we have the information about. And she has a DLG4 gene deletion, and it's called Shine syndrome, and part of Shine syndrome is being autistic. So it all came together for us. We kind of knew that anyway. We could get the diagnosis, but we knew that she was on the spectrum. Everything pointed at that, everything we learned. And actually, I'm convinced my daughter is pathological demand avoidant. Everything I learned about pathological demand avoidance makes complete sense to us. We start to understand my daughter, which really helped. Now, we also were foster carers. So we were North Lanarkshire foster carers for 7 years, and we were short-term carers because it was deemed that we were not a good fit long-term because of my own child's needs, but that short-term this would be good. We had learned lots of skills along the way that we could put into place in our role as foster carers. And I loved it. It was wonderful, but it was very challenging. And with lots of different experiences, many children went home, many couldn't go home and went on to kinship, some went on to longer term care, some went on to adoption. And towards the end of our fostering journey, we had a young man with us with extreme trauma, the most extreme we had seen. Social work were telling us they hadn't seen anything like this. That was how extreme it was. He could never return home. He couldn't be with his 5 siblings. He was triggering them all constantly. None of them would take him on. And so we were leaving foster care, and there was nowhere for him to go. Nobody in Scotland would take this child on. And I had a wonderful social worker who got me interested in adverse childhood experiences, which was just starting to become talked about in Glasgow. This was back in 2018. And I started to get interested in ACEs. It started to make sense to me. And I got offered a free ticket by our head social worker to go to the ACE Aware seminar in Glasgow. And off I went to that event, didn't really know what it was I was going to. And when I got there, it blew my mind. I went there to learn about my foster child. But what I actually learned about was about myself, about my own children as well, about why we behave the way we behave. And so there was lots of information, and I would talk about adverse childhood experiences in the workshop. And, I learned lots of information, but when I left there, I wanted to know more because I was really excited about this. And there was lots of information about why we might be the way we are, but nothing about how to change that. And so on the back of the programme, I found the name of a man called Brian Post. Onto Google, off I went, and I learned so much from this man. Oh, this man was talking about things that I had never heard of before. He was talking about stepping away from the fear and the control parenting that we've all been taught to use and that society has been passing down the line for generations. And instead, he was talking about stepping away from the fear and control and coming from a place of connection and calm and compassion and curiosity. Now, coming from the west of Scotland, of course, I'm thinking, there's no way that's going to work. I was deep and comfortable in my fear and control, but it wasn't working. In fact, it was making things worse. And I thought, what have I got to lose? I started to learn it, I started to apply it, and I couldn't believe what I saw. My wee guy very quickly transformed into the boy that he was born to be. He stopped having these endless meltdowns that went on for days on end. His behaviour stopped escalating to the violent state that they were. He started being able to come and repair, and I was able to repair with him as well. And he learned safe ways to release these big emotions that he was carrying, and they reduced and they reduced and they reduced. I became certified in this model when I saw the difference that it could make, but it didn't stop there because I saw the same change with my own autistic child. She stopped having these endless meltdowns, these violent behaviours. She started to be able to come and back and talk about it and understand it and reflect on it and learn from it and learn healthy, safe ways to release emotion. But it also changed things for my neurotypical child. It changed things for me and my husband. It changed things for me and my parents. Because I started to see everyone differently and I started to change myself. And I started to tell people across Scotland because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. No one else seemed to know this back then. And we set up the charity in 2020. We got charity status and we've been doing this ever since. Lockdown pushed us online, so now we do this online as well across the world. And it's just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. We're now trying to find ways to meet this demand for this information because parents and carers are coming back to us telling us they're seeing the same thing. Now, at first I did this just for adoption and foster care and kinship, but then I saw the same change in my own home and I started to offer it out to birth families. They told us that they were seeing the same change, especially birth families where there's trauma or there's neurodiversity. And so I'm going to talk you through some of the things that we do and some of the things that we offer. It is mind-blowing to me, the feedback that we get. And I'm going to show you some of that amazing feedback. But first of all, I want to point out that I talk about this from a first-hand experience. I don't talk about this as a professional. I'm a parent who's been there, who's done it, who's got the t-shirt. I'm a carer who's been there and got the t-shirt. I did all that stuff that everyone else is doing. And I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm very honest at the beginning of every workshop that I'm a hairdresser from Glasgow. This was not my life plan. But things happened to me and it changed my way of seeing things. And I wanted to tell others so that they could have that same transformation. So what do we offer at T.I.P? First of all, I set up a big Facebook group to tell people what I was doing back in the day when it first started, never expecting it to turn into what it has. That Facebook is now over 30,000 people on it, all learning, all trying to make this change. Not everybody on the Facebook group has done the workshop, many have. This is open to anyone. And so we signpost all of our events on there, also on Eventbrite. Many people signpost other parents to our work. After people join the group, they tend to get interested and they want to join the workshop. The workshop is fully funded. We offer, I'll tell you later as we go through this, but we offer these online and we also offer them in person. So anyone can sign up to the 4-hour workshop. They will receive CPD for attending the workshop as well. We offer private support groups, so anyone that has attended the workshop can then join our ongoing support through a separate group, which is our support group. Now, we do also have this in a web page because we do understand that Facebook is dying. Maybe not, but not everyone's using it now. So we have other ways folk can access this. But we have ongoing support where we have been funded to be able to bring in therapy, coaching, trauma coaching, IEMT sessions. We've had occupational therapy in there, giving us record lots of sessions that people can access on sensory system, sensory diet, sensory issues around eating, toileting, sleeping. We've had sessions for teachers, for parents who don't have kids that can't attend school. So we've got all of that going on. I would say that we now have teacher workshops as well. So there's a teacher workshop every month that is delivered by a teacher. There's a 90-minute session, a pre-recorded session by myself, and then there is the live online session for 2 hours by Sarah Lathan, who wrote Creating a Trauma-Informed Classroom. We also have a teachers group for teachers to join to keep learning. So that's an aside from what I offer. So we have that ongoing learning because it's not about doing one workshop and just making that change, because of course we're going to fail, we're going to get it wrong, we're going to need to keep learning and relearning and relearning. And the all important piece is that self-healing and that continued support, because it's all about our own trauma. This is what people learn at the workshop, and I'll go through what we cover in the workshop. But people learn about their own trauma and the importance of self-healing, because if we don't heal our trauma, then nothing is going to change, and that's what the support group is all about. Now, people can stay on the support group and they continue to learn because we offer things every day that they can learn more. And they can come back to the workshop time and time again. And we are actually now working on creating a second workshop to build on top of that in learning, because we're seeing many people coming back time and time again. So watch this space, because I'm hopeful there's a second workshop about to come out. But people can continue to learn and continue to go to these resources. So what do we cover in the workshop? In the workshop, I talk about adverse childhood experiences and generational trauma. But I would say that on the online, we have one monthly online session every month, which is a large forum. The last one we had, there was 100 people signed up and came along. Well, more than 100 signed up, 200 and odd signed up. 100 had turned up. So we now have a trauma coach on the call who mans the chat, because it's too much for me. If I start to look at the chat, I'll lose time and we'll run late. So I deliver the workshop and she's there answering questions, and she's also there to help anyone that might become triggered, because we do understand that talking about ACEs and generational trauma can be extremely triggering. And so she is there with that ongoing support in the workshop. That's only the main workshop that we offer. We talk about the crossover between trauma and neurodiversity, and how being neurodiverse creates trauma, but also how trauma changes the brain, and it looks like neurodiversity, and how these things are so interlinked and often both are at play. We talk about stress and fear and how it affects relationships and connection, how we shut down from each other and we disconnect and we go into survival, how we're feeding off each other's state. So if I go into that state, so do my children, and if my children go into that state, so do I. We talk about the importance of relationship and connection and healing trauma, and how we can get back into that relationship and connection when we get out of it because we're stressed and scared. We talk about how all behaviours arise from stress and fear. These are not a choice, that our brains shut down and the child's brains shut down, and we are not choosing these behaviours, and how if we can see that differently, then we can change how we feel, and we can change how we respond, and we can change our results. We talk a lot about calm breathing, about the power of calm breathing. We do some calm breathing in the workshops. We talk about oxytocin in the brain, and how when we can do our breathing and release oxytocin, it can turn our brain back online so we can connect again. We talk about all the other ways that we can release oxytocin, and how we can help to release our child's oxytocin and turn their brain online again. But we help caregivers learn to choose love instead of fear, to see that we've been living in fear. And that if we can stop and we can see the fear and we can breathe and we can have these great tools, then we can choose to come from a love state instead of a fear state, so that we can stay connected and in relationship as much as we can and create healing in the environment and in the home. But we do also talk about how we're not going to be perfect. We're going to get it wrong. Of course we are. Nobody stays in love all the time. We go in and out of love and fear all the time. But we can get better at getting into the repair and getting back into that relationship and connection. This is where learning happens. And I talk about my own first-hand experiences of this and what happened in my home when I started to do it and when I started to apply it. People tell me that's what makes it so powerful. I find that people get quite emotional. Many people are nodding and saying, wow, they say to me, every workshop somebody says to me, how do you know what's happening in my home? You're talking about my life. Because I talk about the reality of living with this in our home with children in meltdown and all the trauma that we're carrying. And people tell me they experience the same thing. So who attends the workshops? Our workshops are open to absolutely anybody. But this model is effective with all children, not just children with ADHD, PDA, ASD, all these many diagnoses and additional needs, or children with trauma. But it is especially helpful with these children. But it helps with all children. Parents with trauma themselves, where that generational trauma is a factor, which is most of us. Parents that might be neurodivergent themselves, because it's coming down the line. Parents, foster carers, adopters, kinship carers living with a child that's suffered neglect and abuse. We have many, many parents that have escaped domestic violence, been in narcissistic relationships, and are still dealing with all of that. We have lots of parents coming to us. Teachers, early years workers, support workers, anyone working with families. We had many teachers coming to our mainstream workshops, and we did some of our workshops for teachers. But the biggest thing, the feedback was, you're not a teacher. And they're absolutely right. And this is why we brought in Sarah to deliver her session. She's an SEN teacher with loads of experience. She's written a book about creating a trauma-informed classroom. She's actually in the process of writing her second book, Creating a Trauma-Informed School. So it's wonderful to have Sarah delivering these two teachers. She does them online. She does them in twilight sessions. She does them sometimes during the day. She does them in evenings as well. 1 a month. We're hoping to increase that. The first one we put on, we had 150 teachers signed up within one evening. Teachers want this information. She's even talking about creating a second workshop to come back to those teachers that she's already spoke to about how to develop and continue that change. So we're going to continue that as well. And there is a break over the summer holidays where we don't have any of these, but they'll be coming back in August. We've got one coming up in April, and then that'll be it until the summer holidays. We find it's difficult to get teachers to engage in that last term. There's so much going on at school. So we'll start them again early August before the schools go back. Many charities and groups and staff and volunteers attend our workshops. We'll deliver a workshop to an organisation for their staff, for their volunteers, or for their, parents and their carers. Social workers have been coming to our, many social workers come, and then they signpost their parents to us, health visitors as well. We do work with a lot of the NHS staff. Many health visitors have came to our workshops over the years and told us that they wanted to apply this stuff, but that they couldn't because they were being told to use all the stuff they've been told to use for years. And some of them have actually gone to their bosses and said, I'm not teaching this stuff anymore. I want to bring in trauma-informed practice. We're seeing the shift, we're seeing the change. CAMS teams are coming to our workshops. They're also signposting to our workshops, mental health teams across Glasgow, many of them out with Glasgow, across Scotland, signpost to the workshops. Often now we ask in the workshop, where did you hear about us? It's always CAMS, it's always NHS staff, so health workers, support workers. So all of this is going on. We encourage them, professionals, to come to the workshop themselves and see it, make their own decision. What we often find is they get very excited and they want to signpost their parents to us, or they have us come to their organisation and deliver a workshop. Because you can either signpost people to our ongoing support, or you can ask us to come and deliver it for you. That's what we've been doing for 7 years. So we offer at least one funded online workshop each month. Sometimes there's more. Sometimes people have us do an online workshop for them, but they let us open it up to our groups as well. This is open to anyone to sign up. Anyone can attend. They come back and again, as many times as they want, because there's a lot to take in. So, nobody's going to remember all of it. So people come back again, and they often tell us they hear something new every time. We offer funded workshops to any groups or organisations in Scotland, or now across the whole of the UK, online or in person, depending on whether they have premises or how far we have to travel. But we actually now are hoping to do this in England, Ireland and Wales as well. So a workshop is 4 hours long. We have 2 breaks. We have a short break in the morning and we have a 20-minute lunch break. We aim for at least 8, if not more, participants per workshop. There is no maximum number. I love big groups. I will talk to as many people as you can get in the room. But these can be offered also, they can be offered in a 1 4-hour session. It tends to be 10 o'clock till 2, just to, work around those school pickups and drop-offs. But we can do 2 2-hour workshops sessions, so they'll be delivered in 2 halves. We don't say any longer than a week apart, so either 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 days apart, or like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't recommend a longer than a week because people tend not to come back if it's too long away. They can't remember it, or it's quite a long time to come back at it. Depends on the group's needs, so we're quite flexible where we can be. We now have published a book which has the content create a book study. So you can buy as many books as you want and you can create your own book study and use the book study guide. The book is available on Amazon. It's available in paperback, Kindle, and an audio string, because we offer a recorded session for £25 a nation. Some people can access it that way as well. And she said, can I cut this up and do it over 8 weeks? And so we worked with her and we did a pilot with another few organisations and we found it was really successful. To reach those parents who find sitting through a 4-hour workshop is just too much, or that might perhaps need that extra support because it's too triggering. So we now have the 8-week the 4-hour workshop cut into 8 half-hour sessions, pre-recorded. They're on our portal. And then if you sign up to use this, you can use this every week over 8 weeks and watch the workshop. So you would have, say, a 2-hour session every 8 weeks in your place of work. Parents come in, have a chat, have a coffee, how are you getting on, let them talk, watch the workshop. Now the workshop, each session is 15 minutes, a break, and then 15 minutes. So it's a full half hour. You can pause it as many times as you want. You have that whole half-hour session to work through during that 2 hours. You can add in anything that you want to around that. Now, we do have facilitator resources with questions and discussion points, and you can add anything in that you think fits with your own programme, as long as you use the full content as well. And each week people come back and they watch another half hour and another half hour and another half hour, so that they can come back and reflect each week on what they've learned, on what's worked, on what hasn't worked. Having someone there, we insist that whoever it is delivering this. Now, we allow 2 people per organisation, per cohort, to access this. They have to have attended the workshop and they have to be qualified to support participants if they become triggered, because this content can be triggering, and especially if you're doing it over that 8-week programme, it's going to bring stuff up. We want people to talk about it, we want them to reflect on it, but of course it's going to be emotional, so we need to have that ongoing support within those 8 weeks. There are 3 pricing tiers. So we have one tier which is 50% funded for small organisations and grassroots organisations, and some schools can have it once, fully funded, 50% funded. We have tier 2, which is for larger organisations. The full fee per 8-week cohort is £726. So that's for organisations that have, got their funding in place, that are doing all that great work, and they can do one group. That's one 8-week programme for up to about 10 people. It's your choice how many people you have in your group. We say no more than 10 is good, just because it feels safer for people to share and talk. You will have some drop off, you know what it's like. So you might want to have a few extra, knowing that some won't come. Tier 3 is coming soon, it's not out yet. So we have a yearly subscription where you will be allowed to use this 12 times through your organisation. We could have 2 different people for each session. So that would allow 24 people to access it. We're not hugely strict around time. We do understand that things drift, people are unwell, issues happen. Just get in touch and let us know what's going on. We can, because you'll only be allowed to access the... That's coming. There will be also an additional thing for the tier 3 where it's for new mums. There'll be 4-week sessions for new mums that are pre-recorded. So it doesn't cover the whole 8-week content, but it has the content for that self-regulation, and how when we do that on our work on ourselves, it can help the relationship and help calm and co-regulate the child. So that is a wee freebie that we're chucking in as part of the subscription, but there will be more information coming about that. We do have some 100% funded sessions, but they are only for extreme cases where people really want to deliver it, don't have the funds. So people can contact us and ask about that. We may offer 75% funded in certain cases as well. That's obviously at the discretion of the board. So this is very exciting. We're just starting this. So this is how we're hoping to not only deliver our own workshops, but get other people delivering the workshops, but maintain the core content of the workshop, but have ongoing support. So in our funders, our main funders, National Lottery, had asked us as part of our getting our funding to release a yearly report every year of our outcomes, because we were getting all this great feedback, but we didn't really know what to do with it. And so we've done it for the last 2 years. This is last year's outcomes. There's a huge long report on our website, which you're welcome to access. But this is basically what our outcomes are. 97% increased self-awareness and of their own parental fear and overwhelm, because we didn't know. We didn't know that we were living in fear. 96% said it improved acceptance and relief that it wasn't their fault, and it wasn't their child's fault either. 92% say they feel more hopeful and motivated to apply this trauma-informed approach. 95% said they had the ability to co-regulate their emotions and responses to their child's behaviour. 96% said they were more confident in their parenting role. 43% said it improved parenting-child relationship. 71% said it improved mental health for them and their child. 49% said it improved young person's behaviour, and 42% said it reduced the need for crisis support in their home. These were so powerful, we couldn't believe what we were seeing. And so we'll continue to collect these every year. People get back to me after workshops telling me amazing stories of the differences that they have made. Professionals keep booking us in saying, I can't believe what our parents are telling us. That's the power of this information. So just a little bit of our feedback, some of the things that people have said. I feel more positive about things already, just knowing that I'm not alone. It's transformational. The first time I've ever heard real information that's relevant to our lives with our children. Undoubtedly the best CPD I've ever attended, and everyone needs to hear this information, and that's what I feel too. When I learned this stuff, I thought everybody needs to know this. Why are we not getting told this as a public service? And so that's why we set up the charity, and that's why we do what we do. So I'm hopeful that I can come. Hopefully I'd love to come deliver workshops for you, whoever you are, wherever you are. Get in touch. Let's book something in. We have a booking form on our website with lots of dates that you can fill out and ask us to come and deliver for you a workshop online or in person, depending on the distance. Please do contact us and ask if it's quite far. Often we can cover the travel. We can also cover overnight if that's if it's too far away. We have all that stuff funded. So reach out. I'd love to work with you. You can scan this and it will take you to our main Facebook group, which is where we get most of our traffic, and anyone that attends. And if you do the 8-week programme, all the parents that attend the 8-week programme with you will get CPD certification to say that they've attended. All of our workshops are CPD certified. Our teachers' workshops, our mainstream workshops, you can come as many times as you want. Each time you can get more CPD. But the parents that attend your workshop, if you do it, the 8-week sessions, will also then get access to our ongoing support. So you can then signpost them onto that. All that information is part of the workshop. At the end, you can get them to scan all the links to join all the groups, and where we then offer the ongoing support with the therapy and the trauma coaching and the ongoing learning. So it's not just an 8-week programme. You can do the 8-week programme. You can do the workshop. You can then deliver the 8-week programme. And then you can signpost them onto our ongoing support, or you can signpost them to our workshop, or you can have us come in and deliver a workshop for you. You can also get the book. You can have book study groups, all sorts. So have a think about what might suit your needs and what you would like to do. We're really excited to work with any organisation that supports families and get this information to them. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.